Hello. Today's the 4th day of International Deaf Week. My name is Sherri. I'm a professor and an assistant director for special projects. I'm here at St. Cloud State University. And we have something exciting. We have a friend joining us today who is deaf. He'll be sharing his experience traveling to Ukraine. Let's take a short time to chat with him about his experiences working with Christ Global. Are you ready? Let's meet him. Hello. Hi. Nice to see you, Sherri. Hello. Nice to see you. You just got back from Ukraine. Wow. Do you mind sharing for the viewers your name and your experience traveling there? What motivated you to go there? Yes, I'd be happy to. I was just taking a look at my pictures and it was reminding me of all the memories I had there. Hello, my name is Ed Gleason and I'm from Minnesota. This recent summer, I ended up flying to Paris. From Paris, I went to a small town in Romania. And from there, I boarded a train and went to the border close to of Ukraine. There were border patrol everywhere. There were trucks just lined up. There were so many trucks trying to get into Ukraine. The reason I went is because I was really feeling for the deaf population there with the war. I wanted to know what the situation looked like for the deaf people there. I wanted to go there to be able to support them. I wish to encourage everyone to see that deaf people can survive and the Ukraine deaf need our support. The deaf people in Ukraine often don't even know what's going on, and so I wanted to go and see how I could help. I haven't really traveled around the world before. It was my first time flying out of the United States. I stayed in Ukraine for 2 months. When I got into the country, I met with a deaf friend of mine who brought me to an Airbnb to stay. I then finally had the chance to meet the local deaf community, and as I interacted with them, their Ukraine language was very hard for me to follow. It was very difficult to understand. And I realized how important it was for me to have access to my iPhone to translate from English to Ukrainian and sometimes Russian. Even through those difficulties communicating, I was still very impressed. Many of these deaf people's homes were destroyed as they fled when Russia invaded. And all across Ukraine, if a group of people lost their homes within one area and moved somewhere else in the country, you would call that displaced. So if they decided to flee their country into another country, that would be called a refugee. So I met all kinds of displaced deaf people that lost their homes while I was there in Ukraine. I met so many people who told about their stories, their journey, their experiences. I was very touched. Many of them lost friends, family, co-workers, so many more. It really hurt my heart. Wow, that's just amazing. So you navigated your way in Ukraine for 2 whole months. I know that your family and friends were all worried about you. Yes, you're so brave. I'm curious, can you explain what exactly you did in Ukraine during all that time? Well, there was an organization called Deaf Bridges. And I met a guy who's the president of that organization who used to live in Ukraine with his family for 2 years. He's familiar with the area, the people, and the places. And so when the war broke out, he flew out right away to quickly help as many deaf people as he could. And I felt compelled to help, but I was busy with some prior obligations. So when the time was right, I then decided to join in and help. So he set up different ways to deliver food, and refugees helped coordinate those deliveries to different cities or countries where they were needed. So when I heard about that, I was willing to fly in and join that team and help out. So planning for where the things would go, which city, how the food would be delivered, how to buy the food, all of those logistics were things that I helped with. And then the bombing. There were bombings everywhere. So we just decided to go ahead with it because of our love for those deaf people in our hearts. We wanted to be able to take care of them and support them. Is their government really caring for them? Yes and no, but I feel more no than yes, if you know what I mean. There's still a lot of deaf oppression out there, and there's very little financial support. The hearing people get a lot more, while the deaf people are trying to get by with so little. Most of that financial support came from America. That allowed us to buy a total of 4 vans, and we would load them up completely full with food. This organization was a deaf-owned, deaf-ran business. Everything there was made possible by that deaf man from America going to Ukraine and getting this going. So then we started contacting many different people who lost their homes, and we gathered them all up in one town, and these deaf individuals became our drivers. We usually have 2 drivers in a vehicle at all times that would deliver, drop off food, and then sometimes help bring people out. Just in the event that someone would get injured, the other could take over. I think in total we lost 4 drivers that were killed. Anything can happen in a time of war. There are so many unknowns. There are so many deaf people in Ukraine that have stories. Like when a deaf person would walk down the street, the air raid sirens would go off. They would have no idea. Or there were warnings that enemy planes were flying overhead. Nobody would notify them. They didn't have any idea. And those bombs would hit. Stories like that just break my heart. I didn't have a lot of communication directly with the Ukrainian deaf people. We used interpreters and those apps on my iPhone that I had mentioned, but I wasn't able to connect very emotionally with them because of that communication barrier. The language difference was really hard, but in my heart, I felt like I could understand them fully and know what's going on in their journey. Their tears told me so much. That language itself didn't have to tell me anything. I could see it on their faces and through their body language. I really fell in love with those people. They went through some really hard times, experiencing all kinds of oppression, but they had almost nothing, but they learned to live with what they had, to bear through it. And they're generally very happy people, and that really impacted me. Wow. How amazing that risk you were willing to take. Such an unpredictable situation, but here you are. But I'm sure it's affected you emotionally. And I'm also sure that those deaf people in Ukraine are very thankful for your service. Everyone there, including all of those volunteers, thank you. I definitely witnessed how thankful they were when we would deliver food. They would run up to us and hug and cry and tell us thank you, saying how unexpected it was and that they couldn't believe there were still people there willing to serve. And they also found out that we were from another country, willing to risk our life to come to them. And I didn't want people looking at me, thinking about me risking my life. I mean, it's not about me, I would tell them, you already have it hard and I'm just here to support you. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for this to happen. You couldn't help it. I mean, deaf people in general are already lacking in resources and services, support, opportunities. But what I have here, I feel is better than most. And I just wanted to help. And I'm retired now too. So I thought, why not? I've completed a lot of things in my life. And now I wanted to be able to help others, to teach them, be with them, encourage them, and support them. And most of all, respect them and love them. Again, I say thank you to all of those people who helped in Ukraine and other crisis situations. It is so critical to have volunteers willing to help, no matter the language barrier, and be able to work together. Thank you. Thank you again. It's such a blessing. During international crisis, Cooperation is so critical. And I know that you had struggles with those language barriers, but amazingly, you had the heart and the willingness to invest your time. So amazing. Thank you. All of us together, we can accomplish much. It's better if we work together than as individuals. Yeah, we can volunteer, donate money, donate food, and invest our time. I'm really motivated. I don't mind going back to Ukraine, but my family is very afraid for me. So it's hard. There's a war going on there. It's not easy for people to be willing to send their loved ones over into a war zone. But I'm thankful for my family and my friends' support as well. Well, thank you. What a beautiful story. We'll see you tomorrow for day 5.